Hi there. Today has been a very busy day. I have been cooking all day. The first project I made was my pinto beans that I shared today, and the second meal was the chili Colorado. And now the third part to this full meal is sopapillas. This is on the front cover of my new Mexican cooking cookbook. So in New Mexico, this is a staple. It's in all the families, all the restaurants. People make these. I grew up on these, and I prefer them over tortillas. Like if my mom was going to make tortillas or sopapillas with red chili or green chili, I would always say make the sopapillas. So this is a pretty simple recipe. There's baking powder in it, and when you make the dough, you let it set for a while so that the baking powder can activate, and that's what makes these puff out like little pillows. So this is going to be the third part that I'm making today, and it'll all go together as a meal, which I'll show you in the very end. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. These are all the ingredients that go into making the sopapillas. There's flour, baking powder, salt, and lard. And I would say the majority of people in New Mexico use lard. That's what gives it the flavor. A lot of times I use butter. I stopped using shortening over 20 years ago just because the ingredients of all the preservatives in it. So anyway, this is the recipe right here. Sopapillas, fried bread. It does call for sugar, but like I don't use sugar and my mom never did. So there are always some variations in recipes that, even though that's what they call for, there's maybe one item sometimes that we just don't use. So anyway, I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, the recipe calls for 4 cups of flour. I'm only doing 2 because, like I said, there's only 2 of us, and I'm not going to make that much. So here's 2 cups of flour. It calls for 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm actually going to do more because I've noticed that it always seems to need more salt. So technically, I would be putting half a teaspoon of salt in here because I'm doing half a batch. But I am going to put 2 teaspoons because I usually put double. So it does call for 3 teaspoons of baking powder, but I'm only going to use 1.5 because I am cutting the recipe in half. So here's 3 half teaspoons, which makes 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And then what we're going to do is add the lard and some water. Okay, I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of water. It calls for 3/4 a cup, and that's if you're doing the large amount. So now I'm going to mix everything together. Okay, so we have a dough hook. We're going and mixing that, and after we're done mixing it, we're going to let it set for about 20 minutes so everything can get activated, the baking powder. Okay, here's the dough. This is how it is after you put it in the mixer with the dough hook. It gets just like this. So we're going to let it set for a little while, but in the meantime, I'm going to flour the board. We try to make use of our time. So when this is done setting, we'll have everything ready to go. So I'm going to put it in this bowl, and I'm going to cover it up and let it sit for probably 20 minutes so that the baking powder can activate. If you don't do that, the sopapillas won't rise as much. That's the key. That's a trick to it. So we'll be back in 20 minutes. Okay, we're ready to start rolling. So I'm going to take half of the dough and start rolling this dough flat. Kind of like you're making a pie, only you're not. You're going to do it. This is King Arthur's flour. It's kind of more dense. So I'm going to be rolling this, and I'll get back with you when it's where it's supposed to be. Okay, I let this set about 15 minutes, not as long. But we roll it out like this, and then what you're going to do is you're going to cut columns, and you're going to have like squares like this. My mom always made like a little, she did this. That's how she always, well, she hasn't made them in a while, but maybe a year ago. I don't always do that, so I'm going to try it both ways. Then we're going to go over to the frying skillet. I usually fry these in an iron skillet, so we'll go over there. Okay, so I'm going to use olive oil for this. And you pour it in a very hot skillet. And we'll drop a few of them in. Okay, you can see they're kind of puffing out, but the second batch will be way puffy because the baking powder will have had longer to activate. I was getting a little impatient, so I didn't wait like a full 20 minutes. And like I said, the longer you wait, they'll puff out like pillows. So right now I'm just going through all the soapapillas and cooking them. That's about the color you want. You don't want them too dark. You just take them out and you put them on paper towels. Some people put sugar and cinnamon on these, but that's never been part of our family tradition. It's not in our family tradition, but in restaurants you can have them both ways. The majority is just to eat with beans and chili. Okay, this is a perfect example of what I wanted to show you. This one is just like a pillow. I'm going to turn it over. This is a little thinner. They're still good, but you can see how puffy this is. And everyone likes these. A lot of times we put beans and meat, you know, whether it's chili Colorado or chili verde, we put it inside that, open it up and fill it and eat it like that. They're delicious. Here they are cooking. We're almost halfway done. We're going to wait and cook the others after we eat. Okay, here they are. They're done. We're going to taste them. Okay, here's the finished product. This is what soapapillas look like. And I'm going to taste the puffy one that I have in this batch. Super good. You'll love these. I'm going to show you now what the full plate looks like. Okay, this is the meal that I made today. I made chili Colorado, fresh pinto beans, and soapapillas, and this is the whole meal. It's a new Mexican meal. So, I hope you enjoy this meal. I went ahead and put it out in 3 different segments, starting with the pinto beans, then the chili Colorado, and now the soapapillas. So, I hope you enjoy this meal. And I hope you try it.